Okay. Dude, you got me again. Welcome back to Talking Story. My name is John Minton, and I am back with another Cosmere catch-up review. I have completely finished Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson as I move my way through the Cosmere and catch up. You can tell what I'm thinking about the Cosmere because my editions are looking more expensive. I'm no longer trying to be financially responsible and buy paperback reads to catch up. I stepped up to Dragonsteel and got a nice leather-bound edition. These are absolutely gorgeous, guys. So let me get into the review. My reviews work classic 5-star system. I look at 5 categories: world building, plot, characters, pace, and prose. Each of these categories can get anywhere from a quarter star to a full star. At the end, we're going to do a little bit of math, and we're going to figure out exactly what I thought of the book. So let's jump right in with world building. Come on, it's Brandon Sanderson. This guy excels at creating a stage for his players to fret and strut upon and tell us their story. In this one, we have 2 kingdoms, Idrian in the mountains, Hallandren in a city. Actually, Idrian used to run it. There was a schism due to religion. It's an old city. There's mysteries abounding. You don't quite know everything about it. The magic system is amazing. This biochromatic breath system that it's like you take in a little bit of someone's soul and you can use this to, say you made a little straw man and you could use this to animate it and let it run an errand for you. You could animate maybe a cloak that you're wearing and it could pull you up from one story to the next. The more breaths you take in, the higher levels you obtain as an adept of this type of magic system, and you're able to start seeing colors and textures in the world in all different ways. There's a rich history that abounds about the city of Hallandren, and the magic system itself. Where did these wonders come from? I could go, it's Brandon Sanderson. You could go on. The world building gets a full star. All you have to do is see his name on the book, I think, from this point and understand, yeah, he created a world second to none. He does it every single time. So world building, world star. Let's go into plot, guys. As I was kind of saying before, you have 2 rival kingdoms. The Idrians used to run the city of Hallandren. There was a schism due to religion. I think they both kind of practice the same religion now, but consider them different sects. Now, there's been an uneasy peace for a good while. And a long-standing treaty that King Dedlin would send one of his daughters to the God King in Hallandren to marry, to keep the peace ongoing. Parents don't like to talk about this, but he has kind of a favorite. Vivienne has been raised her whole life to be this bride of the God King, but he just can't send her. Ciri is a little bit more of a no-nonsense tomboy. She hadn't been trained to do this, but he's the one. War is probably inevitable. I can't send my beloved Vivienne. I'm gonna send Ciri. He sends Ciri. She's ill-equipped. Vivienne can't handle not being the one chosen after she's been preparing her whole life. So she follows her sister into the city of Hallandren to try and save her from this horrible God King. The God King, there is a pantheon in Hallandren, guys. It is a city of magic where people have returned from the other side of death itself. They don't quite understand why, and they do with an enormous amount of this biochromatic breath that gives them the ability to possibly see the future, and they are pampered and doted on and treated as a living pantheon, even though they don't quite understand all of the magic they have. And so what you have to have here is you start having political intrigue to build up between Blushweaver, Lightbringer in this pantheon, as well as the God King himself, Susbron, and his new wife Ciri, and the ministers around them. And Vivienne has kind of fallen in with these mercenaries, Tungfa and Dint, and they're kind of helping the cause of Idrian on the inside of this city. And as you would imagine, a Sanderlanche happens at the end. The intrigue builds and builds and builds and builds upon itself. And as you would imagine, a real love affair happens between Ciri and Susbron, the God King. I didn't think I'd ever find somebody as romantic as I am. I found it in Brandon Sanderson. So if this all sounds strangely familiar, guys, as a plot, it's because it is. A princess leaving her sanctuary to go to another sanctuary as an envoy or a betrothed, to save her kingdom as well as the other one. A real love affair that happens. A raggedy man that you find that has way more answers and is someone that you do not expect him to be by the end. It's the same story elements that we've seen in both Elantris and White Sand, which is a comic. And I just can't come up with my answer if Brandon Sanderson had a story in his head and he kept borrowing elements from one to the other story until he got it right, which he absolutely does in Warbreaker. This is the most fully realized example of these story elements of the three. And even Mistborn Era 1 has some of these in there, but it's different enough that it didn't strike me. This one, there's so many similarities. And I'm not talking themes, guys. You're always going to have themes. Like, you're going to have somebody, in this case, a living God himself, questioning his own organized faith and religion. You're always going to have with Sanderson the strive to have a more equitable society for its people, a real love affair, soulmates. You're always going to have a magic system that is not quite understood even by the adepts. And where are the real answers? The real answers in the history of the place and its ancestry. I mean, these are themes that I don't mind those repeating because it's what's important to the man. I expect to see them in the books. But actual story elements of a princess being betrothed and leaving to another kingdom, a raggedy man that pops up. I mean, it just struck me, and I'm not sure if it's because of this deity, and I'm going to call her Big Addie because that name I just can't get. Shattered across these worlds, and wherever these shards have landed, it's like a ripple or a mirror, and there's a reality that can take place. Now, I've seen some things in the Cosmere so far that would lead me to believe this. There was a short story, and I can't remember the name of the short story, but it had to deal with ghosts, and you would lay a circle of metal filings that would keep the ghosts out. And metal filings, the same type of metal that works for allomancy on Scadrial. So, I mean, there seems to be similarities and ripples playing across all these worlds. So are these similarities a master plan of Mr. Sanderson that it's all going to tie together? I wouldn't doubt it. The way I saw Mistborn Era 1 come to fruition and tie together every thread, realizing and circling around and having a purpose. But I can't get over the fact, reading this, it's like, wow, we're going that direction again. Wow, we're using that character again. So for plot, guys, I'm gonna do the do-si-do. I'm gonna take off half a star because so much of this book I have read already in other Sanderson books, at least two. But I'm gonna add a quarter star back on because if it was a case of an artist fiddling with something until he felt like he got it right, I totally get it. He gets it right here. It's the most fully realized using these story elements. So for plot, I'm going to go 3/4 star, ending up with taking off a quarter star for the rinse and repeat that I sensed in the early work of the Cosmere. Let's move on to characters. You love them. I mean, always the romance at the center of everything. Ciri and Susbron, you just can't help but completely root for this. The living gods, I mean, Lightbringer and Blushweaver, there are so many great characters. Vasher, this raggedy man who seems to be on the outskirts of everything. Is he trying to bring it all down? Is he trying to save everything? You're not quite sure. The sword he carries is a character unto itself. The mysteries that he's unraveling through character as he's explaining who he is and where he comes from. Vivian, the arduous trip that she has to take of getting over herself and actually falling into the squalor that her people have to live in within this kingdom of Hallandren, and then ascending up. Every single character you either love to hate or you root for. You absolutely buy when the betrayals come and the tables turn, which you know are coming in a Sanderson book, or I've learned to know they're coming in a Sanderson book. They're all fully motivated. You all buy it when it happens. Characters, full star for Brandon Sanderson. Pace. I did seem to get bogged down a little bit with pace towards the middle of this book with the political intrigue. And I just think it was because of what I've stated before. So many of the story elements that I had seen coming back around. But the political intrigue just seemed to go on an ooch too long for me before we got to the Sanderlanche. So I'm going to take a 1/4 star off here for pace and give it 3/4 star because it just slowed down through the middle of it a little too much for me and a little too long. So 3/4 star on pace. Now, this is the last category that I have never given Brandon Sanderson a full star on because I love me some purple prose. I love me some wordsmithing. And he has such a no-nonsense style, which when you're dealing with hard magic systems like biochromatic breath and political intrigue, there's so many high concept things going on. I absolutely understand why he doesn't want the language to get in the way. But this time, I'm going to give it up to Brandon Sanderson and give him a full star on prose. Let me tell you why. It's all about wit. It's all about sarcasm, guys. There's the mercenaries, Tongfa and Dinth, Lightbringer and Blushweaver. There's so much wit and sarcasm and humor within the dialogue that I was missing in some of the earlier books. It just took off for me. I just have to give up a full star here on prose. His style completely gelled for me. I was able to grasp every concept, obviously, as I always am, but because of the dialogue taking a step up, I'm going to go full star on prose. So, if my math is correct, that leaves us at a 4.5 for Warbreaker, guys. 4.5. So close, and I don't doubt that this overall Cosmere is going to be talked about for a long, long, long time in this genre, probably long after I'm gone and not reading it anymore. So, I mean, this getting closer and closer to 5s makes absolute perfect sense. I'm going to start Stormlight Archive next, and this is where, from what I understand and what I fully expect, the 5s are going to start dropping like rain. But so excited to be in this series, to be catching up with this series. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me here on Talking Story. My name is John Minton. Let me know what you thought of Warbreaker. I know a lot of people love it. A lot of people feel it's one of their favorite Sanderson books. And it is a standalone, which is so rare in fantasy these days. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you think about the returning story elements from the early Cosmere work. I would love to talk about that. Like, subscribe, come on back to Talking Story. And for those of you that have read Warbreaker, stick around because I've got a little bit of spoilery talk coming your way. Thanks so much for joining me on Talking Story. Okay, spoilery talk. Okay. Dude, you got me again. The Sanderlanche at the end. These monolithic statues that litter this city of Hallandren, where these godlike beings, they have been imbued with life, and they come, I mean, they're right in front of me the whole book, and when they come to life and charge down and stop this war from happening, my jaw dropped like, wow, what a freaking great turn. What a great ending. And Vivian and Vasher at the end, Vasher being one of the 5 that that brought all about this research that caused this biochromatic breath and brought about downfall and ascendance, and him and Vivienne are moving off to start adventures, please tell me these two show up in the Cosmere somewhere in the future. Please tell me I'm not done with the adventures of Vivienne and Vasher. I've got to see more of these two. Let me know. I mean, don't spoil anything for me, but if you could just leave a comment and say you're going to be happy, that would be awesome. Thank you so much for joining me here on Talking Story again and my Cosmere catch-up. I'm loving it, guys. I'm going to keep going. Come on this journey with me. I look forward to it. My name is John Minton. Thanks again.